Hello and welcome back to the channel once again. Today we're looking forward to the 10 upcoming games that I'm personally most excited about releasing this very year in 2020. We're going to start this list in no particular order with one that I didn't really ever expect to exist. Rainbow Six's Quarantine. We had this brief trailer showcasing that special quarantine event that occurred in Rainbow Six Siege, which was controversial to say the least, since it was pretty naff, to be honest. Poorly executed, despite being kind of a neat idea in the first place. But now we're getting this much more developed, original standalone game, which I find really cool because they're actually making use of the lore and the great characters from Siege and making other games, just like what we're seeing with Riot and their League universe. They're making other games from that. I can imagine this is going to be a really fun game to play with friends, but I have to wonder, how deep will this game go? Could it be comparable to the currently blowing up Tarkov in the gameplay style, or will it just be a one and done, more story-based experience? Time's gonna tell, and unfortunately we do not have a solid date for Quarantine, except that it's coming early 2020, apparently somewhere around April, but that isn't set in stone, so we'll have to wait and see. Next up is gonna be the Resident Evil 3 remake, because my god, the remake of Resident Evil 2 was so good. It absolutely smashed it out of the park. It was all over Twitch. It was just such a fun time re-experiencing that wonderful game, and was such a good remake because the visuals were just so clean and crisp, the mechanics were so good and smooth, and then it remained true to the original game completely, but added to it somehow. I don't know, I just thought it was great, and obviously the game was a massive success. So now they're giving the same work to Resident Evil 3, that's just wonderful. I can only see this going very well for them. I went through the original 4 games as a kid growing up, and 4 was probably one of my favorite games I've ever played. And I can only hope that with the success of this remake of Resident Evil 2, and of course now 3, we do see some kind of updated Resident Evil 4, because that was my favorite one. Plus by then we'll be on next-gen consoles, and maybe PC ports will be higher quality with that. But either way, for Resident Evil 3's remake, we have a release date of April 3rd, which is pretty soon. I bet we're going to see this all over Twitch once again, and I think I might have to stream it too. Next has gotta be Ori and the Will of the Wisps. In stark contrast to Resident Evil, this is one of the sweetest storylines set in a beautiful, filled with life world. It just made for a great game. Then the platforming itself was simple and straightforward, and then it got really complex really quick as you unlock new abilities and encounter more complex challenges as you progress the game, just like any good platformer. It made for a really fun gameplay experience, and Ori kind of stuck to that, right? Great story, great world, great gameplay, and with this minimalistic approach, it served Ori so well. 3 main concepts executed brilliantly together to make a game that a wide selection of ages can really enjoy. I have nothing but praise for the original game, and I'm very excited to enjoy more of that world again in Will of the Wisp, which is coming very soon, literally next month. It's set to release on February 11th, so get ready. And I can't talk about Will of the Wisps without talking about SILKSONG. Team Cherry made one of the best games I've ever played, called Hollow Knight. Wonderful visuals, satisfying, difficult gameplay, a top-tier soundtrack, fascinating story, multiple endings, cute NPCs. I mean, hell, what a game. It was like the platformer 2D Souls. And they even dropped free DLC that added to the game's lore, upping the ante every time, multiple times, for free. To say the very least, it was the best 2D game I have ever experienced, and one of my favorite games of all time. So I'm so happy that it is so successful and so beloved, because it should be. And then just when we were expecting some kind of new DLC news or some sort of update, they just announced SILKSONG, a dedicated sequel. I don't need to know anything more than that to be very excited. But to know we're playing as Hornet with an entirely new style of gameplay and an entirely new kingdom, it's going to be amazing. If you did not play Hollow Knight, trust me, look into it. SILKSONG doesn't have a release date yet, but we're hoping for it in 2020, so we're going to have to wait and see. Next is Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. It's another sequel. One of the best games I've ever played, just like Hollow Knight. Originally, I'd save Breath of the Wild for whenever I travel on my Switch. Eventually I ended up streaming an entire playthrough. At one point I let my brother borrow my Switch for a couple days, which distracted him through a bad time and sort of brought him back into the world of gaming and how impactful and fun they can be. And finally, it was even the perfect game to let my parents try as a sort of beginner or starter game for them. So not only was the game itself beautiful, you know, the very best game for random exploration, simple, satisfying combat, limitless shenanigans with the gadgets or the billions of interactions between objects, or hell, the music, characters. I could talk about each aspect for hours, and honestly, I don't know if you've seen them, but there are so many video essays about this game, and for a good reason. It was a game for me that I could share with others in a way that I haven't been able to since I was a kid playing console games after school with friends. The Switch itself made that possible, but with games like Mario Odyssey or Zelda, of course, and Smash, they're all absolute triumphs of games. But I feel like with the Switch, Nintendo opened up a world of gaming for people who were normally excluded or even unaware of it. I cannot wait for anything more from Breath of the Wild, and I was expecting a DLC, I think a lot of us were, but to get a full-on sequel, yes, please. Not to mention, from the trailer, it seems very different and rather creepy, right? The story seems to be taking a much darker twist. I'm really interested to see where that takes us. The worst part about this game is, unfortunately, the release date, or rather the lack of one. We only know it should be sometime 2020. Next up, we're talking about Half-Life ALYX. Valve still make games, I know, right? Since when? It was a really sudden announcement that blew everyone away, right? We even made a video talking specifically about it, but to give you a short version, it's set before the events of Half-Life 2. The story is basically showing us how the rebellion was formed in that Combine-occupied world. So, yeah, it might not be Half-Life 3, but it is Valve finally doing more Half-Life, right? Just in a more safe spot, where they're filling in the blanks and filling out that story that we already know, rather than continuing into, you know, the unknown. And the thing is, maybe after ALYX, that insane hype, you know, the when is Half-Life 3 coming, maybe that will simmer down and Valve will actually be able to release something in the version of Half-Life 3 that won't disappoint no matter what they release, because there's too much build-up for it. I think this was a smart move to release something before working on Half-Life 3. Then you've got the VR itself, which sure looks really polished and great, but I always worry about movement in VR. It's like usually sliding around or point-to-point teleporting or stuck on the spot while things move along themselves. I just hope that one day we reach a point where movement makes sense and is just easy, you know, no awkwardness walking into walls or whatever. Maybe we should be standing on like circular treadmills. Who knows, but VR is definitely still in its early stages, but a huge shout out to Valve for dropping a trailer so suddenly like this with a release date of just a few months away. It's coming out sometime in March, which is awesome. Okay, this one, honestly, it's just so weird for me to say this. Kind of funny, really. But I am so very excited for Minecraft Dungeons, a Diablo-esque Minecraft adventure game. If you asked me, let's say just a year back, if I would be up for a Minecraft Diablo game, I'd probably laugh and say, nah, I'll pass on that. But God, look at this game. It seems so ridiculously polished and fully realized in general. From a quick glance, I know I'm going to have a really good time playing this with friends, whatever way the game goes. So if it turns out that it's a genuine, long-life, isometric dungeon crawler comparable to Diablo and like Path of Exile, that's only a good thing. But if it turns out to be just fun for a certain amount of hours, just X amount of hours, maybe a one run through, and I really enjoy the time I had with it, that's also totally fine and a good thing. Either way, Minecraft Dungeons is coming April 2020, so we don't have much of a wait to try this one out and see where it goes. I've been wondering about this one for a little while. Ghost of Tsushima, E3 2018, right? Sekiro, Nioh 2, and Ghost of Tsushima all were announced and talked about in trailers, teasers, all at once. It was like a motherload of sword-based feudal Japan games, apparently. Sekiro obviously made waves when it came out the very next year, while Nioh 2 put out some network tests and is coming very soon. And meanwhile, Ghost kind of went into total silence. It looked like an insane combination of some sort of samurai film with really flashy and intense combat in between those story moments. I was definitely immediately interested. Sekiro stands as a triumph, while Nioh 2 is just Nioh 1 with new maps and some new abilities, whereas Ghost looks like a totally different style of game, kinda actually reminding me of something like Last of Us, where the world and characters and the story that takes place is the main event, while the gameplay in between that is the vehicle that gets you there. I like the different style, and to finally get a new trailer at the recent Game Awards show, well, to say the least, I was relieved to finally see more. I wonder if the gameplay will live up to that of Sekiro or Nioh. From the trailer, we've seen some stealth gameplay rather than blind rushing in to match the intense boss-like 1v1 duels in the previous trailer. Overall, I love the vibe, and I do think it has huge potential, and it is finally coming out this summer. But the worst part of this game is, unfortunately, that it's going to be a PlayStation exclusive. Doom is back, baby, with Doom Eternal. What can I say about Doom that, well, hasn't already been said? You're going to be playing more of Doom Guy hunting demons. I know, crazy. You're like an unstoppable force of destruction via the cleanest FPS gameplay out there. Matched with that perfect soundtrack that I personally listen to hundreds of times to get pumped up while doing like anything, you just can't go wrong. And it's just more of that. Gods, demons, different worlds, crazy visuals to go with it. That 2016 release of Doom was this masterclass of simple game design polished to perfection. Doom Eternal is just going to be more of that, and so obviously I'm looking forward to it. And hey, it's only going to be a small wait. That's also coming in March on the 20th. Finally though, we are at number 10 on this list, and again, finally, it's almost here. CD Projekt Red has made an award-winning, potentially the best RPG ever made, called The Witcher 3. Now they're releasing a futuristic powerhouse of an RPG using what they've learned and applying it in an entirely new setting and world. And it's also an FPS, which is far from what you'd imagine from the devs of The Witcher. It's definitely new ground for them, no doubt. But if there's any team that I would trust to make a good new RPG, it's gonna be Bethesda. Just kidding, obviously. Could you imagine? This game looks to be innovative in so many ways. Visually crazy, very immersive. All the things that I've come to expect from the design of Witcher, but in a totally new environment. I think we've talked about this game to death on multiple videos. I think we're all aware of it. So what can I say about this game other than that I wish you all good luck in your Cyberpunk adventures. If the length of this game is anything comparable to The Witcher 3, well, I guess we'll see each other in a few years. Godspeed, good luck. And we're all going to be diving into Cyberpunk this April on the 16th. We're planning to cover this game heavily on the channel at the time, which is going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Well, there you have it. That is my 10 games that I'm most excited for in 2020. But if I'm totally honest with you, my list was actually 16 games. It's just that's quite a lot to talk about in one YouTube video. So I'm going to throw out some quick mentions to games that I wanted to talk about but just couldn't in this video. Halo Infinite, Final Fantasy's remake of 7, Monster Hunter World's Iceborne on PC, Warcraft 3's remake, Nioh 2, The Last of Us 2, and a new MMO called New World. All of these games I'm very excited for, and apparently they're all coming in 2020. To say the least though, gaming is going to be pretty nuts this March and April, right? So many releases. What are you looking forward to the most? Overall, I think 2020 looks really good for gaming, and I'm very excited. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and I'll see you guys next time.